Hi, I'm Terry Raper, and welcome back to the Sideline Report, your digital dose of sports news for the week. We're going to get started here. I'm going to kick it off with some college football action. We take it out to Mankato to get some Mankato State action this week. The Sioux Falls Cougars came all the way down to Mankato to take on the Mankato State Mavericks here. Minnesota State, after losing last year's game to the Sioux Falls Cougars, had flipped the script here in Mankato on their homecoming weekend. They ended up powering past Sioux Falls 38-12. Quarterback Maximus Sims connected for some big throws to Trayshawn Watson, while Sam Backer got a chance to bulldoze his way into the end zone for some Maverick offense. They ended up taking this one 38-12 after not looking back from those first two quarter touchdowns. They make a statement this year after last year's disappointing loss. The Minnesota State Mankato Mavericks take on the Concordia St. Paul this Saturday, October 4th. Kickoff will be at 12 p.m. Next, we take it out to Winonna State. Winonna State traveled down to Augustana to take on the Vikings in the Vikings homecoming game. And this one didn't turn out so well for the Winonna State Warriors. The number 9 Augustana offense tallied over 527 yards to take a 34-6 victory over Winonna State. So this moves the Vikings to 5-0 overall, 4-0 in the NCIC conference, while the Warriors fall 2-3. We can see the Winona State Warriors take on Wayne State College this Saturday, October 4th. This Saturday, October 4th, they take on Wayne State College. Kickoff will be at 1 p.m. Now we take it to some high school volleyball action. This past Saturday, there was a tournament here at the National Volleyball Center in Rochester with a handful of area teams amongst the squads competing. First up, there was John Marshall taking on the Spring Grove Lions. And after a hard-fought back-and-forth battle, the Lions end up taking over the game, beating out the Rockets 2-0. Right in the gym next door, they had the Tartan Titans taking on the Century Panthers. Lainey Stelmaker, assist to Kylie Barlow, hits her 1,000-assist milestone, a huge milestone for the sophomore. Even though it was a hard-fought battle, that was not enough for the Century Panthers to take the win. The Tartan Titans end up taking this one 2-0. Now getting into some high school football action here. Back up as we talk about games for the upcoming week here. The few games to be on the lookout this upcoming week as far as the Big Nine Conference is concerned. We have Northfield traveling to John Marshall this Tuesday, September 30th, to take on the Rockets. The Austin Packers will be traveling to Red Wing to take on the Wingers this Tuesday. And then Thursday, Mayo will be taking on Owatonna, and St. Peter will travel to Mankato to take on Mankato East this Thursday. And this Saturday, the Burnsville tournament, where multiple teams will be traveling out to Burnsville for a little bit of tournament action. Also in the HVL conference, we have Stewartville traveling to Lake City. We have Zimbrota Mazeppa traveling to Byron to take on the Bears. Both of those games tonight actually. And then Tuesday we have Cashton Manorville traveling out to Goodhue, and the Lords traveling to Cannon Falls this Thursday. And then Saturday there is the Byron Invitational out at Byron. So those are some of the high school volleyball games you can catch this week. Now getting into a little soccer action here. We'll travel out to Casson Manorville, where Northfield traveled to Casson Manorville. Northfield ended up scoring twice in this first 25 minutes, and they end up taking the game 2-0. Casson Manorville couldn't find a way to get into the net, and the Comets fell 2-0 to Northfield. Next, we take it out to Byron, where the Lake City Tigers took on the Byron Bears, and Byron's Beckett Scram scored in the final 2 minutes, or the final minute against Lake City to tie it up. This one ended up in a draw where the Bears and the Tigers ended up in a 2-2 draw in this Hit the Wild Valley League Conference matchup. You could actually catch Lake City taking on Red Wing in Red Wing tonight at 7 p.m. Next, we take it out to Stewartville, where the number 10 Pine Island Zumbrota Mazeppa Wildcats take on the number 6 Stewartville Tigers. And Stewartville's Cole Crop continued his stellar 2025 season with 2 goals against PIZM. The 6th-ranked Tigers ended up taking this one 3-1. They dropped the number 10-ranked Wildcats in this matchup. Then we get into some girls soccer action. Last Monday, the Dover Iota traveled to Lourdes to take on the number 5 Eagles. Elena Walbrink scored the first goal for the 5th-ranked Eagles as they took this one 3-0. The Lord Eagles ended up taking this one 3-0. The Eagles scored twice in the first half and once in the second, and they improved to a 10-0-2 on the season. Some matchups for the week as far as soccer is concerned. Some boys matchups we can catch this week. Byron traveling to Casson Manorville this Tuesday. Stewartville traveling to Lake City again. And then Century traveling across town to take on the John Marshall Rockets in that crosstown rivalry this Thursday. And Cannon Falls will be coming to Rochester to take on the Lourdes Eagles Thursday as well. And then section play begins next Monday, October 6th. Section play will begin for boys soccer. And then on the girls side, we have Casson Manorville traveling to Byron this Tuesday. Pine Island, Zumbrota Mazeppa traveling here to Rochester to take on the Lourdes Eagles. Both those games happen on Tuesday. Again, this upcoming Thursday, October 2nd, John Marshall and the Century Panthers continue their crosstown rivalry. We have Albert Lee traveling to Red Wing to take on the Wingers this Thursday. And same again with the boys. Section play begins next Monday, October 6th. Now we get into this past week's KTTC Game Day matchup of the week. We had the Owatonna Huskies coming down to Rochester to take on the Rockets. Both of these teams came into this game 1-3, but this one was personal for the Rockets. They were trying to break a 23-game losing streak against the Huskies. The Rockets haven't beat the Huskies since 2005. The Rockets haven't beat the Huskies since 2005, and this game was no different. the Owatonna Huskies continued their 20-year dominance over John Marshall. After a hard-fought defensive first half, the first points weren't put on the board till late in the second quarter with about under a minute left. Huskies running back Tristan Graham broke out for a big run to put the Huskies up 8-0 after a successful two-point conversion. And from then on, it was all Tristan Graham running behind that big Huskies offensive line, finding his way into the end zone 3 times on the night. JM's offense just couldn't seem to find a rhythm, even after a great third quarter drive where Savvy Vath and Akeche Williams were able to connect and move the ball downfield, capping that drive off with a touchdown pass to Jamal Foe. But a fourth quarter fumble on the end and around, or on the double reverse end and around, ruined any chance of a late game comeback for the Rockets. This one was all Owatonna from the second quarter touchdown, and the Rockets just did not have an answer for these Huskies. This week's game of the week will be the John Marshall Rockets. We will see them again this week, traveling across town to take on their crosstown rivals, the Mayo Spartans. This week, JM will put up a challenge for the Addington Jug. Last week, Mayo defended the Jug versus Century. Last week, the Mayo Spartans defended the Jug versus Century. This game was where Mayo just showed their dominance in this as the RPS powerhouse. Despite Nate Long and the Panthers giving their best effort, finding the end zone twice, once on the ground with Nate Long using his feet, and then once in the air, Nate Long with a pass to Max Elliott, putting it in the end zone. The Spartans just proved to be too powerful in this one. Senior Brody Schmidt led the Spartans team to a victory, finding his way into the end zone 3 times to bring the Spartans to a 50-15 victory over the Panthers, and took home that Addington Jug. Well, at least for another week, because as I said before, this week the John Marshall Rockets will come in and put up a challenge to see if they can take it. This week we'll see the top 2 teams in Rochester battle it out, as both teams have victories over the Century Panthers. The Rockets beating out Century the previous week, not last week, but the week before that, in a 27-20 victory. And as you just seen, the Mayo Spartans took home a large margin, 50-15 victory over the Panthers. The Spartans come in this game 3-2 over the season, but after losing their first 2 games, they are on a current 3-game win streak, hoping to extend it to 4 games against the John Marshall Rockets. It'll be interesting to see what adjustments the John Marshall Rockets, or Coach Riggett and the Rockets, make after that last week's loss to Owatonna. They'll need to see some major offensive production from Savvy Vath and Akeche Williams to pull off the victory. Hopefully that offensive line holds up to give Vath some protection and give him some time in the backfield, or some space to move with his feet, because they like to rush their quarterback and then drop back and get the ball to Akeche Williams. So it's one of the big keys for John Marshall, if they want to have any chance in this game against Mayo, is they're going to really have to cut down on the penalties and turnovers. We've seen that last game versus the Huskies. A lot of penalties. They had a few big plays, a few big drives that were just called back from penalties, and then that late fourth quarter turnover kind of sealed the deal for the Owatonna Huskies to walk away with the victory. So if they can make those changes, we might see the John Marshall Rockets put up a challenge for that Addington jug. So hopefully you will be tuned in this Friday as the John Marshall Rockets take on the Mayo Spartans for fight for the Addington jug. And we have that right here on KTTC Extra's live stream and the North Star Sports and Entertainment Network this Friday at 7 p.m. So make sure you tune in. I will be doing the commentary. You can catch me here every Monday at 11 a.m. giving you the recap of last week's sporting events from local college football, soccer, volleyball, all the local high school sports, and giving you a preview of what's to come this week. So tune in every Monday at 11 a.m. and this Friday for KTTC Game Day at 7 p.m. I'm your host, Terry Raper, and I'm signing out. Hope to see you this week.